Thank you. Welcome to Northern Michigan Update. Today we have Carolyn Curtin from the State Board of Education. In our continuing education of citizens of Northern Michigan, it's great to have you here today, Carolyn, and we appreciate your service and involvement. Can you tell me a little bit about how the State Board of Ed functions and some of your responsibilities?
Well, there are 8 board members, and we all serve on a special task force. My task force is early education, early childhood education. And we, have a monthly meeting. We have subcommittee meetings that we work on, and sometimes conference calls.
Now, the sort of the state board's purview is very, very broad. You cover, like you talk about, early ed. I know that we just
sharing
wrote
quality.
Right. We did graduation requirements, which we just wrote, but then the quality of teachers, as far as how do they get certified and the processes. Then you've got sort of critical teacher shortage lists.
And the different areas, like with the quality teachers, those are broken down as subcommittees, and they work on the things and then bring them to the board, and we have discussion about it. And there are a lot of experts that are pulled into this.
So go through sort of what are some of the areas that we have some critical shortages in teachers.
Well, I think it's to make sure that we have qualified teachers in every port. Michigan produces a lot of teachers every year, and right now we're exporting them out of the state. So it's getting the qualified, highly qualified teachers.
So how do you go about, what are you looking for there?
Well, they've been looking at changing some of the ways that the teacher prep schools are preparing students, number one, and then another thing is to have teachers who've been teaching in their field for many, many years but haven't maybe been qualified in that, to go through doing a resume or working out ways that they can become qualified based on the experiences they've had.
Now, is there like qualified levels? Does that cover, like, is there like, for example, is there a lower elementary mathematics, or is this a skill set for chemistry, or how does that work?
Well, my understanding of it is that teachers are, they're certified in like K-5 or K-8, or if it's K-8 through 12, so they would get the schooling for those grades. If they're going to change, then they need some more schooling. Okay,
very good. Now, where do most of our Michigan teachers, is it a central or is it an eastern, or where do they come from?
Well, of course, Central has always been known as a teaching college. They come from a lot of different schools. Grand Valley has a good reputation, U of M.
Now, as the State Board of Ed, is there a review of those criterion that the universities are working on as far as the teachers? Or?
Yes, they're working through the State Board right now to work on that committee to ensure the things that we think they need and where they need to change. It's like high schools have to change or schools need to change. Well, probably our teaching institutions do also.
Wow. Now, some of the people that we've been working with in Northern Michigan have talked a little bit about certain classifications of teacher shortages. Are you aware, is there like math teachers or science teachers?
Well, math and science is what we know that there is a shortage of, and hopefully more students are going to go into those fields.
Is there things that we're working on to encourage them, or is it more of a increasing awareness?
I think increasing awareness. Sometimes the problem is if they're really, really good, they get hired outside of teaching because they can make, quote, more money too. So we need to be able to entice them to stay in education.
Now, you're one of the few people from Northern Michigan on the State Board of Ed.
I'm the only person on the State Board for the North. I say I represent the rural, small northern schools.
Thank you.
So I started on school boards. I knew you wondered how they happened. Basically, I got asked by the high school principal to come in and serve on a parent advisory board. And at the time, after we finished our project, he said, Carolyn, have you ever thought about running for the school board? And I truthfully never had. And he said, well, I think you ought to consider it. And so he planted the seed, and I ran, and that was the start of.
So is this in sort of the Everett area? Is that where you ran?
It was the Everett School District, the local K through 12. And I served 11 years on that board, and then 10 years on the Mecosta-Osceola Intermediate School Board. And then when Sharon Wise was her term was coming to a close, and she chose not to run again, she called me and said, I'm wondering, would you be interested in running for the State Board of Education? So again, I hadn't ever thought about it, but she planted the seed, and I thought, well, so far at that point there was no one from a more northern school, and I thought that was a voice that should be at the table too. So
now, you said there's 8 members on the board. So what are the backgrounds and who are the other people on the board? Or
well, it's a wide variety.
Okay.
Some have come from an education background, and some come from different fields. Every 2 years, there's 2 more board members are up for an election, and the board, could change or stays the same. Right now, there are 6 Democrats and 2 Republicans on the State Board of Ed.
And then you hire the state superintendent?
Yes, we do. I would say that job of hiring the superintendent and then setting policy are the 2 big things. It's interesting to me that a lot of people think we're in charge of the money for education.
Right. Yeah.
So, no, you have to talk to someone else about that.
Now, some of the reporting and the systems that are in place, can you go through sort of what you review within a school district that is successful? What are the types of things that you look at there?
Well,
because I understand is that there's a lot of reporting that goes back through.
Oh yes, we're required, particularly by No Child Left Behind, for the programs to have the data and it's coming more and more, so it's consolidated. But the board or the department looks at those schools that are having trouble financially and try to help them. There's an agenda setting committee on the board and any board member that has an item that they really want discussed can talk to that.
So like the No Child Left Behind, and that's been sort of in the press a lot and a lot of discussions. Some of the strengths, that's my understanding, is that it's given us a base reporting number for a lot of school districts.
Right.
What additional information have you found out that normally hadn't flowed through to the State Board of Ed on either successes or failures?
Well, I think that we're keeping better track of subgroups, knowing how the English language learners are doing, or how some of the lower socioeconomical groups are doing. And it's really forcing us. Everybody has always said we want to teach all children and all children can learn, but it's really forcing everybody to make sure that's happening, not letting kids fall through the cracks. This Reading First initiative that has come out of No Child Left Behind has really helped in Michigan. We're seeing that in the test scores that came out, K through 3. And I think that's one of the really good things that's come out of No Child.
Reading First is trying to encourage young parents and to read to them at...
Well, not really. Early childhood, we talk a lot. Parents are their children's first teacher. And even they say if you just sit with an infant in your arms and read the newspaper out loud, it's the child's hearing vocabulary and words, and they see parents reading, it's important. Reading recovery Reading First rather, is for the teachers who are being trained a different way to help children learn. Every school that has a Reading First program, there is a coach in that school that works with those teachers, kindergarten through 3rd grade.